there was one room in our house we were never allowed to go into. Not locked. Not guarded. Just forbidden. From as early as I can remember, my parents made it very clear that the door at the end of the upstairs hallway was off limits. No explanation. No excuses. If we asked about it, the subject changed immediately. If we even lingered near it, we were told to go downstairs. As a kid, that alone was enough to scare me. The door itself didn't look special. Plain wood. No sign on it. No lock. But it always felt wrong standing near it, like the air around it was heavier. The hallway was usually bright during the day, but that corner stayed dim even when the lights were on. At night, it was worse. The darkness around that door felt deeper than the rest of the house. Everyone else slept through the night. I didn't. I was 16 when I first noticed the sounds. It usually happened after midnight, when the house had gone quiet and my parents were asleep. I'd be lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when I'd hear something faint coming from the hallway. Not footsteps. Not voices. Just a soft, repetitive noise, like something shifting its weight on the floor. At first, I thought it was the house settling. Old wood. Pipes. Normal things. But the sound always came from the same place. Behind that door. One night, the noise changed. Instead of shifting, I heard what sounded like breathing. Slow. Controlled. Too steady to be an animal. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding, listening as the sound rose and fell through the thin walls. It went on for minutes. Then it stopped. The next morning, I asked my mom if anyone had been awake during the night. She froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. No, she said quickly. Why? I shrugged and dropped it. But after that, things got worse. I started waking up at the same time every night. 2:14 a.m. Every single time. And every time, I felt it before I heard it, the sensation of being watched. Not from my doorway. Not from my window. From the hallway. From that room. One night, I finally did what I wasn't supposed to do. I opened my bedroom door. The hallway was dark, except for a faint glow from the bathroom nightlight. The forbidden door was at the end, barely visible. As I stepped into the hallway, the temperature dropped. I could see my breath. The house was never that cold. I stood there, listening. Then I heard it. A whisper. It wasn't clear enough to understand, but it wasn't random noise either. It sounded like someone trying to speak quietly, to avoid being heard. I took a step closer, my legs shaking, every instinct screaming at me to stop. That's when the whisper stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Slowly, the doorknob began to turn. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just stood there, frozen, watching as the handle twisted, stopped, then twisted again, like whoever was inside was testing it. Then my father's voice came from behind me. "What are you doing?" I spun around. He was standing at the top of the stairs, fully awake, his face pale. Not angry. Not surprised. Terrified. He looked past me at the door, then back at me. "You weren't supposed to hear that yet," he said quietly. That was the night they finally told me the truth. The room wasn't empty. It never had been. And whatever our family was hiding behind that door wasn't a secret meant to stay buried forever. In my family, there was one name that didn't exist. Not officially. Not out loud. If it ever came up by accident, the room would go quiet, like someone had flipped a switch. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. My parents would exchange a look, just a glance, but it was always enough to shut everything down. As a kid, I learned quickly that asking questions about that name led nowhere. The strange thing was, I didn't even know whose name it was supposed to be. I first heard it when I was 13. We were at my grandmother's house for a family gathering, one of those forced, awkward dinners where everyone pretends things are normal. I was helping her bring dishes from the kitchen when I noticed a framed photo tucked away on the top shelf of a cabinet. It was old and dusty, clearly something that hadn't been touched in years. The photo showed my parents when they were younger, and between them was a boy about my age. I pointed at it and asked, "Who's that?" My grandmother dropped the plate she was holding. It shattered on the floor, and for a moment, nobody moved. She stared at the photo like it had personally betrayed her. Then she grabbed it, shoved it back into the cabinet, and turned to me with a look I'd never seen before. "Don't ever ask about him again," she said. That night, I couldn't sleep. Everyone else in the house had gone to bed, but I lay awake replaying the moment over and over. The boy in the photo looked familiar. Same eyes as my dad. Same smile as my mom. He didn't look like a cousin. Or a family friend. He looked like he belonged. At around 2 a.m., I heard voices downstairs. I crept out of bed and stood at the top of the staircase, listening. My parents were in the living room, whispering. I couldn't make out everything they were saying, but I caught fragments. Should have told them by now. It wasn't an accident. He still calls sometimes. My heart started pounding. Then I heard the name. The Forbidden One. They said it softly, like saying it too loudly might bring something with it. The moment the name was spoken, the house made a sound I can't explain, like a deep creak, not from the floor or walls, but from somewhere underneath us. The lights flickered once, then went back to normal. Neither of my parents reacted. That's what scared me the most. The next morning, I confronted my dad. I told him I knew there was someone missing from our family. I told him I'd seen the photo. I told him I'd heard the name. He sat down at the kitchen table and covered his face with his hands. Then he told me the truth. I had an older brother. He wasn't dead. He was gone. Years ago, something happened, something my parents refused to explain fully. They said he'd changed. That he started saying things no one else could hear. That he knew things he shouldn't have known. Eventually, they sent him away, and after that, they all agreed never to speak his name again. What about the phone calls? I asked. My dad went quiet. He still checks in, he said. Usually late at night. When everyone's asleep. That night, my phone buzzed at exactly 2:14 a.m. Unknown number. The message was short. I heard you finally learned my name. I never replied. I blocked the number. I told myself it was a prank. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I hear my parents whispering downstairs, and I hear a third voice responding. One that still knows my name. I didn't know my mother was keeping secrets until after she died. Growing up, she was the kind of person who needed everything to have a place. The house was always clean, organized, predictable. Nothing was ever out of order. So when we started clearing out the attic after the funeral, I assumed it would be full of old clothes, broken furniture, and things she'd simply forgotten about. Instead, we found a locked trunk. It was tucked into the far corner of the attic, hidden behind insulation and boxes labeled with dates from before I was born. The lock wasn't decorative. It was heavy. Intentional. Like it was meant to stay closed. My dad went quiet when he saw it. He told me to leave it alone. Said it was nothing important. That was the first time I realized he was lying to me. Later that night, when everyone else was asleep, I went back up there alone. I don't know what I expected, letters, photos, something sentimental. I used a screwdriver to pry the lock open. Inside were dozens of cassette tapes, each one labeled in my mother's handwriting. Dates. Times. And one word written again and again on nearly every tape. Family. I took one tape downstairs and played it in the old cassette player my parents kept in the basement. At first, it was just static. Then my mother's voice came through, quiet and tired. Recording again, just in case. There were long pauses in the tape. Silence. Breathing. Then sounds from the house, footsteps, doors opening, someone moving around upstairs. My mother whispered names under her breath. My name. My father's. My sister's. Then she said something that made my skin crawl. He's pretending again. I listened to more tapes. Night after night, she recorded the same thing. Sounds from inside the house while everyone slept. Conversations she claimed weren't real. A family member who didn't act the same after dark. On one tape, she cried as she spoke, saying she didn't know how long she could keep covering for him. But she never said who he was. On the final tape, dated just 2 weeks before she died, her voice was barely above a whisper. If anyone finds this, it means I failed. He learned how to wait. He learned how to act normal. And now, I don't think he's pretending anymore. The tape ended abruptly. The next morning, I asked my dad about the recordings. He didn't deny them. He just said, "Your mother worried too much." That night, I stayed awake. I listened to the house the way my mother must have. Every creak, every breath, every shift in the darkness. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps downstairs, slow, careful, familiar. Someone stopped outside my bedroom door. I recognized the breathing from the tapes. Heavy, calm, patient. Then my father's voice whispered from the other side of the door, perfectly normal. Go to sleep. I haven't touched the tape since. I don't know what my mother was trying to protect us from, or whether she succeeded. But sometimes, when the house is quiet and everyone is asleep, I understand why she kept recording. Because the scariest family secrets aren't the ones buried in the past. They're the ones still living in the house. If anything like this has ever happened to you, leave a comment below.